They were roasting her alive until a human stepped out of the dark. HFY Story Part 1. The Screams in the Jungle. The dense purple foliage of Kepler 438b pressed against Marcus Chen's weathered environmental suit as he pushed through another wall of alien vegetation. Sweat pooled inside his helmet despite the cooling system working overtime. He'd been tracking the energy signature for 3 hours now, hoping it would lead to salvageable technology from one of the many crashed vessels that littered this forsaken planet. Marcus had been a salvage operator for 12 years, working the dangerous frontier worlds where fortunes could be made from the wreckage of failed expeditions. The job suited him perfectly. No corporate oversight, no crowded space stations, just him, his ship, and whatever treasures the universe decided to throw his way. His scanner beeped steadily, indicating he was getting closer to the source. The screams that suddenly pierced through the humid air made him freeze mid-step. They were high-pitched, desperate, and undeniably coming from something intelligent. Marcus had heard many sounds in his years on alien worlds, but nothing quite like this. It was pure terror given voice. His first instinct was to turn back. Whatever was happening ahead wasn't his business. He'd learned long ago that getting involved in local affairs usually meant trouble. But the screams continued, growing more agonized with each passing second. Marcus cursed under his breath and adjusted his grip on his plasma cutter. Against his better judgment, he moved toward the sound, keeping low and using the bizarre twisted trees for cover. The vegetation began to thin, revealing flickering orange, light ahead. Fire. On a planet where the humidity made combustion difficult, someone had gone to great effort to build a significant blaze. Marcus crept to the edge of a clearing and felt his stomach turn at the sight before him. A group of massive, four-armed creatures stood in a circle around a crude wooden structure. The Garathi, as the few human scouts who'd survived encounters called them, were 7 feet tall with mottled green skin that shifted colors like a chameleon. Their faces were elongated, with multiple eyes arranged in patterns that hurt to look at directly. They chanted in their clicking, grinding language while rhythmically stamping their feet. But it was what they surrounded that made Marcus's blood run cold. Suspended over a roaring fire on a rotating spit was a humanoid figure. She had pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer even through the smoke and heat. Long white hair hung down toward the flames. She was still alive, writhing against her bonds, her screams becoming weaker as the heat took its toll. The Garathi seemed to be taking their time, occasionally pouring liquid over her that made her skin sizzle without actually burning through. Marcus recognized her species immediately. The Zelathi. One of the first alien civilizations humanity had encountered after achieving faster-than-light travel. They were supposed to be technologically advanced, sophisticated. What was one doing here, being slowly cooked by primitive tribals? The smart move would be to back away quietly and forget what he'd seen. The Garathi were dangerous, territorial, and had killed more than a few humans who'd ventured too deep into their lands. The Zelathi woman's eyes suddenly locked onto his through the smoke. They were large, silver, and filled with a desperate plea that transcended species. She mouthed something in what looked like standard galactic, though he couldn't make out the words. Marcus saw intelligence there, fear, and a spark of hope at seeing him. He checked his equipment quickly. 1 plasma cutter, a handful of flash grenades, and his wits against at least 15 Garathi warriors. Not great odds, but Marcus had learned something about the Garathi from previous encounters. They were superstitious, fearful of what they didn't understand. He pulled out 2 flash grenades, activated his suit's external speakers to maximum volume, and took a deep breath. This was either going to be the stupidest thing he'd ever done, or the most heroic. Probably both. He burst from the jungle with a roar amplified by his speakers, throwing the first flash grenade into the fire. The explosion of light and sound sent the Garathi reeling backward, their multiple eyes especially vulnerable to the sudden brightness. Marcus didn't stop moving, charging straight through their circle while they were disoriented. He reached the spit and used his plasma cutter to slice through the wooden supports in 2 quick movements. The structure collapsed, dropping the Zelathi woman away from the worst of the flames. She hit the ground hard but rolled away from the fire with surprising agility despite her bonds. Marcus scooped her up, surprised by how light she was, and threw the second flash grenade behind him as the Garathi began to recover. Their angry clicking filled the air as he plunged back into the jungle, carrying the alien woman over his shoulder. Behind them, the Garathi's war cries echoed through the trees. They would follow, he knew. They always did when their rituals were interrupted. But Marcus had spent years learning every trail, every hiding spot in this section of jungle. He knew where to go. His hidden ship was only 2 kilometers away, concealed in a cave system the Garathi believed was cursed. Sometimes superstition worked in your favor. The Zalathi woman was unconscious now, her breathing shallow but steady. Her skin was badly burned in places, and she'd need medical attention soon. Marcus pushed harder, his enhanced muscles courtesy of military-grade augmentations carrying him through the dense undergrowth at speeds that would leave the Garathi behind, at least temporarily. He reached the cave system and ducked inside, navigating the twisting passages by memory until he reached the hidden hangar where his ship, the Wanderer, sat waiting. It wasn't much to look at, a converted military transport with more patches than original hull, but it was fast and reliable. Marcus carried the woman up the cargo ramp and sealed the ship behind them. Only then did he allow himself to breathe, normally. He laid her on the medical bay's examination table and started the automated treatment sequence. The ship's medical AI began its work, applying burn treatment gel and administering painkillers through a universal injector. While the machine worked, Marcus got his first good look at his unexpected passenger. She was young by Zalathi standards, maybe equivalent to human 30s. Her features were delicate, almost ethereal, with high cheekbones and a small nose. Despite the ordeal she'd been through, there was something inherently graceful about her. Her eyes fluttered open as the painkillers took effect. Those silver eyes focused on him with surprising clarity. When she spoke, it was in accented but clear standard galactic. "You saved me. A human saved me." There was wonder in her voice, as if this was the last thing she'd expected. "Yeah, well, don't get too excited. We're not out of danger yet," Marcus replied, moving to the cockpit to begin startup procedures. "The Garathi don't give up easily. We need to get off planet before they call in the whole tribe." "Wait," she said, trying to sit up despite the medical restraints. "I cannot leave my mission, my team." "Lady, your team is either dead or long gone if the Garathi got you," Marcus said bluntly. "And whatever mission you had just became a survival situation." "You don't understand," she insisted, her voice gaining strength. "I'm Dr. Lyra Solon, xenobiologist with the Zalathi Science Consortium. We were studying the Garathi. They're not what they seem. They're not primitives." Marcus paused in his pre-flight check. "What do you mean?" "The rituals, the sacrifices. It's all a cover. They're protecting something. Ancient technology. Older than any of our civilizations. My team discovered it, and that's when everything went wrong." She winced as she shifted position. "They didn't just capture me. Someone betrayed us. Someone wanted us to disappear." The ship's proximity alarms suddenly screamed to life. Marcus looked at the sensors and cursed. It wasn't just Garathi approaching the cave system. There were energy signatures consistent with modern weapons, vehicles. "Friends of yours?" he asked. Lyra's face paled, which was saying something given her natural blue complexion. "No, those are the ones who betrayed us. Zalathi military, but not official forces. Mercenaries hired by someone who doesn't want the truth about this planet getting out." Marcus made a quick decision. "Well then, looks like we're both in trouble. Strap in, Doc. This is going to get bumpy." He fired up the engines, not bothering, with the stealth approach. Speed was their only ally now. The Wanderer burst from the cave in a shower of rock and debris, immediately taking fire from energy weapons positioned around the entrance. Marcus threw the ship into a spiral, using moves that would have torn apart a newer, more sophisticated vessel. But the Wanderer was built for abuse, and she took it like a champion. "Why are you helping me?" Lyra asked through gritted teeth as the G-forces pressed them into their seats. "Honestly, I'm not sure," Marcus admitted, pulling the ship into a near-vertical climb. Maybe because I'm tired of running salvage. Maybe because I don't like bullies. Or maybe because something tells me that whatever you found is worth keeping out of the wrong hands. They broke atmosphere with 3 ships in pursuit, 2 Zalathi interceptors and something else. Something that didn't match any configuration Marcus knew. "What is that?" he asked, indicating the unknown vessel on the scanner. Lyra's eyes widened. "That's impossible, that's Garathi." "The Garathi don't have space capability," Marcus protested. "The ones protecting the ancient technology do," she said quietly. "We've stumbled onto something huge, human, something that could change everything we know about this sector of space." Marcus looked at the determined expression on her burned but healing face, then at the pursuing ships. He'd wanted to avoid trouble, to keep his head down and make a quiet living. But sometimes the universe had other plans. "All right, Doc. Looks like we're partners now. Where do we go from here?" "There's a research station in the Proxima system. Neutral ground. If we can get there, I can contact people I trust, piece together what my team discovered." She paused, studying him. "But this will make you a target too. The people behind this won't stop." Marcus engaged the hyperdrive setting, course for Proxima. "Wouldn't be the first time someone wanted me dead, at least this time it's for a good reason." As the stars stretched into lines around them, he added, "So you going to tell me what's so special about this ancient technology?" Lyra was quiet for a moment, then spoke words that sent a chill down Marcus's spine. "It's a gateway. The Garathi aren't protecting technology. They're protecting a door to somewhere else, and someone just figured out how to open it." Bonds forged in fire, the Wanderer drifted in the shadow of a dead moon, powered down to minimal systems while Marcus worked on Lyra's injuries. 3 days had passed since their escape from Kepler 438b, and they'd been dodging pursuit ever since. The neutral research station was still 2 days away, assuming they could avoid detection that long. "Hold still," Marcus muttered, applying synthetic skin to a particularly nasty burn on Lyra's shoulder. "This stuff needs to bond properly or it won't take. Your medical supplies are more advanced than I expected," Lyra observed, studying him with those unnerving silver eyes. "Military grade, unless I'm mistaken." "You're not," Marcus admitted, concentrating on his work. "Did a tour with Earth Defense. Force before I went freelance, they let me keep some toys when I mustered out." "You were a soldier?" She seemed surprised. "Yet you work alone now, scavenging the frontier worlds?" "It's complicated," Marcus said, finishing the application. "Let's just say I saw enough war to last several lifetimes. Salvage work is simpler, usually." Lyra flexed her shoulder experimentally, nodding approval at the range of motion. "You're quite skilled at field medicine, another military benefit." "Had to be. Lost our medic in the Sirius campaign. Learned fast or watched people die." He turned away, busying himself with cleaning up the medical supplies. "Your turn. What's a xenobiologist doing studying the Garathi? They're not exactly known for their contributions to science." She pulled on one of his spare shirts, the human garment comically large on her slight frame. "That's what made them interesting. Every scan showed they were primitive, pre-industrial, but there were anomalies, energy readings that didn't match their technology level, structures that were far older than their recorded history. My team was sent to investigate quietly." "And you found this gateway," Marcus prompted, moving to the cockpit to check their sensors. "We found evidence of it," Lyra corrected, following him. "Ruins deep in what the Garathi consider sacred ground. The architecture was unlike anything in our databases. We're talking about technology that predates the oldest known spacefaring civilization by millennia." Marcus whistled low. "No wonder. Someone wants you dead. That kind of discovery could shift the balance of power in the galaxy." "It's more than that," Lyra said, settling into the co-pilot seat. "The Garathi aren't protecting it because they understand it. They're following programming, genetic imperatives bred into them over thousands of generations. They're guardians, but they don't know what they're guarding." "Except some do," Marcus pointed out. "That ship that pursued us wasn't primitive. A secret caste, we think. Ones who retained enough knowledge to maintain some of the auxiliary systems." She pulled up a datapad she'd managed to save, showing Marcus holographic images of strange symbols. These were carved throughout the ruins. It's a warning, repeated in dozens of languages, some we can't even identify. Marcus studied the symbols. One set looked almost familiar, tickling something in his memory. That one, bottom row, third from the left. I've seen something like it before. Lyra leaned forward excitedly. Where? Asteroid mining operation in the Vega system. Found it on a derelict ship way older than anything that should have been out there. The crew was gone, but the ship's log kept repeating a single phrase before it cut out. He paused, remembering. They're coming back. The proximity alarm chirped, softly. Both of them tensed, but it was just a passing merchant vessel, trajectory taking it well clear of their position. Still, it reminded them they couldn't hide forever. We need allies, Lyra said. My government won't help. Too many are involved in the conspiracy. But humans, your people have a reputation for curiosity and stubbornness. Marcus laughed. That's one way to put it. Another would be that we're reckless and don't know when to quit. Perhaps that's what's needed, she said seriously. The Zalathi response to the unknown is to study it carefully, plan meticulously, debate endlessly. By the time we act, it's often too late. And humans just kick down the door and deal with whatever's on the other side. Marcus finished. Yeah, that's us all right. He pulled up a star chart. Okay, so we can't go to your people, and Earth is too far, but I might know someone who can help. Ever heard of Port Haven? Lyra shook her head. It's a free station outside any government's jurisdiction, run by outcasts, refugees, and people who don't fit anywhere else. If we need to disappear and regroup, that's the place. Can we trust them? We can trust them to be untrustworthy, in predictable ways, Marcus said with a grin. Which is more than we can say for your people right now. Before Lyra could respond, every alarm on the ship went off at once. Marcus's hands flew over the controls as 3 ships dropped out of hyperspace directly in front of them. Not behind, where a pursuit would normally appear. They'd been waiting. How? Lyra gasped. Tracking device, Marcus growled, firing up the engines. Must have tagged us during the escape. Damn it, I should have scanned for it. The lead ship opened. A communication channel. A Zalathi male appeared on the screen, his blue skin darker than Lyra's, marked with ceremonial scars. Dr. Salan, I am Commander Thex of the Zalathi Special Operations Division. You will surrender yourself and the stolen research data immediately. I stole nothing, Lyra replied coldly. The research belongs to the Science Consortium. The consortium has been dissolved pending investigation into seditious activities, Thex replied. Your entire team has been branded as traitors. Surrender now, and your human accomplice will be allowed to leave unharmed. Marcus snorted. Yeah, because that's believable. He turned to Lyra. Hold on to something. He grabbed the manual control stick and threw the Wanderer into a maneuver that shouldn't have been possible for a ship of its class. They dove straight down relative to the galactic plane, using the dead moon's gravity well to slingshot around, and behind their pursuers. Energy beams sizzled past the hull close enough to trigger proximity warnings. Return fire? Lyra asked, her hands hovering over the weapons console. No point. Our guns won't scratch military shields. Marcus pulled, up sharply, narrowly avoiding a missile. But I've got another idea. Can you modify our distress beacon to broadcast on Garathi frequencies? What? Why would we? Understanding dawned on her face. You're insane. Probably. Can you do it? Her fingers flew over the console. Yes, but calling the Garathi here could doom us all, or save us. They want you because of what you know about the gateway. The Garathi want to protect it, enemy of my enemy and all that. Done, Lyra announced as another impact rocked the ship. Broadcasting now. For long moments, nothing changed. They continued their desperate evasion, the Wanderer taking more and more damage with each passing second. Then space itself seemed to tear open. A massive ship, unlike anything in any database, emerged from a rift in reality. It was organic-looking, as if grown rather than built, with weapon systems that defied conventional understanding. The Garathi vessel immediately engaged the Zalathi ships, its weapons ignoring shields entirely, striking directly at the hull beneath. Commander Thex's ship tried to retreat, but tendrils of energy held it in place. "Now's our chance," Marcus said, pushing the damaged wanderer toward open space. But before they could engage hyperdrive, the Garathi ship pulled them in as well. Drawing all 4 vessels into its massive docking bay, Marcus and Lyra exchanged glances. "Out of the fire," she said quietly. "Into the plasma furnace," he agreed. "But at least we're not dead yet." The Wanderer was set down relatively gently on a deck that seemed to be made of living metal. Through the viewport, they could see Zalathi soldiers being herded out of their ships by Garathi warriors. But these weren't the primitive ones from the planet. These wore advanced armor and carried weapons that hummed with barely contained energy. Voice spoke directly into their minds, bypassing their ears entirely. It was ancient, patient, and utterly alien. "The Guardian Child and the Chaos Walker will come forward. There is much to discuss about the doorway that must never open." Lyra touched Marcus's hand, a gesture of solidarity between 2 very different species facing the unknown together. "Whatever happens, thank you for not leaving me to burn." Marcus squeezed her hand gently. "Hey, we humans have a saying. Leave no one behind. Even if that someone is a blue alien scientist who's gotten me into the worst trouble of my life." Despite everything, Lyra smiled. "Is that really a human saying?" "It is now," Marcus replied, then stood to face whatever waited outside. "Ready?" "No," Lyra admitted. "But that's never stopped either of our species before." They walked down the ramp together, human and Zalathi, to meet with creatures that had been guarding secrets since before their civilizations were born. The massive Garathi warriors parted before them, creating a path toward what looked like a living throne where something ancient waited. The being on the throne was Garathi, but also more than that. Its form shifted and flowed, sometimes solid, sometimes translucent, as if it existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. When it spoke again, the words formed directly in their consciousness. "I am the keeper of the threshold," it said. "For 10,000 cycles my kind has stood guard. Now the seal weakens and the enemy stirs beyond the gateway. You have seen the warnings, young ones, you know what comes." "We know nothing," Lyra said, finding her voice. "Only fragments and warnings." The keeper gestured, and the air filled with holographic images. Stars being extinguished. Entire systems consumed by something that defied description. Civilizations falling like dominoes. They are called the Devourers. Beings from a universe where different laws apply. Where matter and energy are food, where consciousness itself can be consumed. Our ancestors barely managed to seal them away at terrible cost. "And the gateway is failing," Marcus said. It wasn't a question. "Correct, Chaos Walker. Your kind's rapid expansion, your poking and prodding at every mystery, has accelerated the decay. But..." The keeper leaned forward. "It may also be the key to reinforcing the seal." "What do you mean?" Lyra asked. "The original seal required the combined effort of 12 species, working in perfect harmony. Most of those species are now extinct or fall into primitiveness. But humans..." The keeper studied Marcus. "Your species has a unique gift. You adapt, you innovate, you find solutions where others see only problems, and you form bonds with others, readily, despite differences." The keeper gestured to their joined hands, which neither Marcus nor Lyra had realized they were still holding. "Already you demonstrate this. A human and a Zalathi, united by circumstance, growing to trust, despite having every reason not to." Commander Thex was brought forward, his arms bound with energy restraints. "This is absurd," he spat. "You're listening to the ravings of primitives and traitors." "Primitive?" The keeper's form solidified, becoming truly terrifying in its alien majesty. "We mastered space travel when your ancestors were single-celled organisms. We choose limitation to maintain our vigil, but the time for hiding is ending." The keeper waved its hand, and Thex gasped as knowledge flooded his mind. His Eyes went wide with horror as he truly understood what they were facing. "By the void," he whispered. "It's all true. The truth." Behind the flames, the ancient Garathi city materialized around them like a dream becoming solid. Marcus had seen some incredible things in his years traveling the frontier, but nothing compared to this. Buildings that seemed to grow from the ground itself, twisting into impossible geometries that hurt to look at directly. Streets that moved like rivers, carrying their group toward a massive structure at the city's heart. "This place shouldn't exist," Lyra whispered, her scientific mind struggling to process what she was seeing. "It violates at least 12 laws of physics." "Different physics," the keeper corrected, its mental voice carrying amusement. "Your laws apply to your universe. This city exists partially in yours, partially in others. It is an anchor point, one of many that holds the gateway sealed." Commander Thex walked with them, his earlier hostility replaced by shell-shocked compliance. The knowledge the keeper had forced into his mind had fundamentally changed him. Marcus almost felt sorry for the man. Almost. They entered the central structure through doors that opened before they could touch them. Inside was a vast chamber dominated by a circular portal that stretched from floor to ceiling. It was currently opaque, filled with swirling colors that had no names in any language Marcus knew. But occasionally, just for a moment, something would press against the barrier from the other side. Something that made every instinct scream at him to run. "The seal weakens with each passing day," the keeper explained, moving to a control panel that looked more organic than technological. "Observe." The portal cleared slightly, showing them glimpses of the other side. Marcus immediately wished it hadn't. The things moving in that other universe defied description. They were hunger given form, consciousness without mercy, existence without empathy. One of them noticed their observation and rushed toward the barrier. The seal held, but Marcus could see cracks spreading from the impact point before slowly healing. "How long?" Lyra asked, her scientific composure returning despite the horror. "At current rate of decay, perhaps one of your standard years." "Maybe. Less if they continue testing the barrier." "You said humans could help," Marcus interjected. "How?" The keeper gestured to subsidiary panels around the room. The original seal required 12 species because each contributed something unique. Humans possess perhaps the most important quality, adaptation. You change, evolve, overcome. But more than that, you inspire others to do the same. "That's why you really saved me," Lyra said suddenly, turning to Marcus. "Not just compassion or curiosity. Humans act on instinct when others would hesitate. You saw someone in need and acted, regardless of species or consequences." "The ritual burning," Marcus said, understanding beginning to dawn. "It wasn't really about sacrifice." "Perceptive," the keeper acknowledged. "It was a test. We needed to know if humans had evolved enough. If the stories we'd heard were true. Would a human risk everything for an alien stranger? You passed." "You let her burn to test me?" Marcus's voice carried dangerous anger. "She was never in true danger. Our medical technology could have healed her completely. But you didn't know that. Your actions were genuine." Marcus took a step toward the keeper, fists clenched, but Lyra caught his arm. "Don't. We need to focus on the real threat." She was right, and Marcus knew it, but he still filed this information away. The Garathi might be ancient guardians, but they were also manipulative bastards. "So what now?" he asked. "How do we reinforce the seal?" The keeper moved to the central panel. "The seal is not merely technological. It requires willing sacrifice, not of life, but of potential. Those who contribute to the seal are forever changed. Bound to its protection, they become bridges between universes, unable to fully exist in either." "You're asking us to give up our lives," Thex stated flatly. "No, I'm asking you to transform them." The 12 original species each provided guardians who became part of the seal itself. They still exist in a fashion, maintaining the barrier through their combined will. The keeper paused. "But only 3 of the original guardian lines remain strong. We need new blood, new perspectives, new strength." How many would be needed? Lyra asked, ever practical. From each species, at least one, preferably more. They would need to be individuals who could work together despite differences, who could find harmony in diversity. Marcus laughed bitterly. You're asking humans and Zalathi to work together when our species can barely tolerate each other on a good day. Yet you and the guardian child have done exactly that, the keeper pointed out. In 3 days you have formed a bond stronger than many achieve in lifetimes. It was true, Marcus realized. Somewhere between the rescue and now, he'd stopped thinking of Lyra as an alien and started thinking of her as, what? A friend? A partner? Something more? There's another problem, Thex interjected. My government will never agree to this. They'll see it as a threat, a Garathi attempt to gain power over other species. Then we don't go through governments, Marcus said. We find volunteers, people who understand what's at stake. That could work, Lyra said thoughtfully. There are scientists, explorers, those who live on the frontiers. They already accept risk as part of life. The keeper nodded its massive head. You begin to understand. This cannot be forced or commanded. It must be chosen freely, with full knowledge of the cost and necessity. A sudden impact shook the entire structure. The portal flared brightly and more cracks appeared in the seal. Something on the other side was testing it more aggressively. They know we're here, the keeper said. They can sense when potential guardians gather. We have less time than anticipated. How much less? Marcus asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know. Days, perhaps hours if they concentrate their assault. Then we need to act now, Lyra said decisively. I volunteer, as do I, Marcus said immediately. Thex looked between them, conflict clear on his face. His entire worldview had been shattered in the span of hours. Finally, he straightened. If this is real, if the threat is genuine, then I have a duty to protect my people. All people. I volunteer as well. The keeper's form seemed to brighten. 3 from 2 species, it's not enough for a permanent seal, but it might buy us time to find others. It moved to the control panel. The process is irreversible. You will become living conduits between realities. You will see all universes but belong fully to none. You will know each other's thoughts, share each other's essence. Are you certain? Marcus looked at Lyra, seeing his own fear and determination reflected in her silver eyes. I've made worse decisions, he said with a forced smile. Name one, she challenged, managing a smile of her own. That time I ate ration pack 47B, the one marked experimental protein substitute. Despite everything, she laughed. Even Thex cracked a small smile. We're really going to do this, Lyra said, taking Marcus's hand again. Together, he confirmed. They approached the portal, following the keeper's gestured instructions to stand at specific points around its circumference. Energy began to build, connecting them in a triangle of light. Marcus felt the barrier between his mind and the others beginning to dissolve. He could sense Lyra's brilliant curiosity, her compassion hidden beneath scientific objectivity. He felt Thex's duty-bound honor, the conflict between orders and conscience that had shaped his entire life. And they could feel him, his loneliness on the frontier, his search for meaning after the wars, his unexpected capacity for connection despite years of isolation. The portal pulsed, and reality began to shift. Marcus saw, felt, knew the seal from inside and out simultaneously. He understood its construction at a level beyond mere knowledge. He became part of it and it became part of him. Through their new connection, he sensed the devourers on the other side recoiling. The seal was strengthening, fed by fresh will and determination. It wasn't enough to restore it completely, but it was holding. Others will come. Lyra's voice echoed in his mind. Now that we've shown it's possible, others will volunteer. The young species bring hope. The keeper's ancient presence touched their shared consciousness. You adapt, you overcome, you survive. Perhaps that is what the universe needs. Time passed differently in their new state. Marcus was aware of his body still standing in the chamber, but he was also spread across dimensions, holding the line against horrors that would consume all reality if given the chance. It should have been terrifying, but with Lyra, and even Thex sharing the burden, it felt almost natural. Days passed, or perhaps minutes. It was hard to tell. Then Marcus felt new presences approaching. More volunteers, human and Zalathi, drawn by messages the Keeper had sent through various channels. Scientists who understood the threat, soldiers who recognized the enemy, explorers who couldn't resist the ultimate frontier. One by one, they joined the seal, adding their strength to the barrier. Each new guardian made the whole stronger, their diverse perspectives and abilities creating a defense more robust than the original. Marcus felt a particular joy when a human soldier and a Zalathi scientist joined simultaneously, their initial distrust melting away as they experienced the connection. This was what the Keeper had meant. Not just defending against the Devourers, but forging bonds between species that would last beyond this crisis. Look. Lyra's consciousness directed their attention to the portal. The Devourers were retreating, pulling back from a barrier they could no longer crack. The seal was holding, stronger than it had been in centuries. We did it. Thex's mental voice carried wonder. We actually did it. For now, the Keeper reminded them. This is not victory, only reprieve. The seal must be maintained, strengthened, evolved, but you have proven it can be done. Marcus felt himself settling into his new existence. He was still himself, but also part of something greater. He could feel Lyra's presence like a warm constant in his consciousness, along with all the other guardians. They were separate but united, individual but collective. Any regrets? Lyra asked him in a private mental channel only they shared. Only one, Marcus replied. What's that? I never got to take you on a proper date. You know, dinner, maybe. A show without the fate of the universe hanging in the balance. Her mental laughter was like silver bells. Perhaps this is better. We have an eternity to get to know each other now. An eternity holding back cosmic horrors from devouring reality, Marcus mused. Not exactly romantic. I don't know. Lyra's thoughts carried warmth. You saved me from being roasted alive, carried me through a jungle, and now you've bound your existence to mine to save the universe. Some might call that the ultimate romantic gesture. More guardians continued to arrive over what might have been weeks or months. Time flowed differently when you existed partially outside normal reality. Humans brought their adaptability and fierce determination. Zalathi contributed their analytical minds and deep understanding of exotic physics. Even a few Garathi from the primitive tribes below joined, their genetic programming finally making sense as they took their place in the seal. Marcus watched through dimensions as the story of the Guardians spread across the galaxy. The conspiracy that had tried to suppress the truth crumbled as evidence became undeniable. The Zalathi government officially apologized to both Lyra and humanity for the actions of the rogue faction. Earth's representatives, in typical human fashion, accepted the apology with grace while immediately proposing joint ventures to study and strengthen the seal. You realize what we've started? Thex's presence touched their shared consciousness. He'd become something of a philosopher in their merged state, his military rigidity softening into contemplative wisdom. A new age of cooperation, Lyra responded. Our species working together out of necessity, but discovering friendship in the process. More than that, Marcus added, sensing the flows of possibility that came with their new perception. We've shown the galaxy that differences make us stronger. Every species that joins the seal brings something unique. Through the portal, now, opaque and solid, they could still sense the Devourers waiting. Patient, eternal, hungry. But also for the first time in millennia, uncertain. The seal was evolving, becoming something they couldn't understand or predict. They fear us, the Keeper observed, its ancient presence a comfortable constant in their shared space. Not as individuals, but as a collective. They cannot comprehend willing sacrifice, cooperation without domination, unity while maintaining individuality. A new presence touched the seal, young and curious. A human child, Marcus realized with surprise, though how a child had made it here was beyond him. Then, he understood. The child was sick, dying, and her parents had brought her to the Garathi as a last hope. "She's too young," Thex protested. "The transformation." "We'll save her life," Lyra interrupted, her healer's instincts strong even in this form. "Her illness is genetic, cellular. The transformation would rewrite her at a fundamental level." The child's mind was bright, unafraid. She'd heard the stories of the guardians who protected everyone from the monsters between worlds. She wanted to help, to be special, to matter. "What's your name, little one?" Marcus asked gently, his consciousness touching hers with care. "Sarah," came the reply, carried on thoughts that tasted of hope and cotton candy. "Sarah Chen. My mama said you have the same last name as us." Marcus felt something he hadn't experienced since the transformation. Surprise. Chen was a common enough name, but still. "Maybe we're related way back. Would you like to be a guardian, Sarah? It means you'll change. You won't be sick anymore, but you'll be different. Will I get to protect people like a superhero?" "Just like that," Lyra assured her, her mental voice warm with affection. The process was gentler with the child, the seal recognizing her innocence and adapting accordingly. Sarah's transformation was less traumatic, more like a gradual awakening, than the jarring shift the adults experienced. She giggled as she felt the connection form, delighted by the sensation of other minds touching hers. "I can feel everyone," she exclaimed in wonder. "You're all so pretty inside." Through a child's eyes, Marcus saw their merged consciousness anew. Where he'd focused on the responsibility and sacrifice, Sarah saw adventure and family. Where Thex had seen duty, she saw purpose. Where Lyra had seen scientific marvels, Sarah saw magic. "Out of the mouths of babes," Thex murmured. And Marcus felt the Zelathi's consciousness shift, becoming lighter somehow. More children came after Sarah, brought by desperate parents who'd heard of her miraculous healing. Not all were suitable for the transformation, but those who were brought a joy and wonder that strengthened the seal in unexpected ways. The devourers, creatures of hunger and darkness, couldn't understand joy. It was anathema to them, a form of energy they couldn't consume. Years passed in the outside world, though the guardians experienced them as both eternities and instants. The seal grew stronger, more complex, incorporating new technologies and perspectives as they were discovered. Scientists studied it, philosophers debated its implications, and artists drew inspiration from the unity it represented. Marcus found himself serving as a bridge between the human and Zelathi guardians, his connection to Lyra creating a template for others to follow. Mixed pairs became common, human and Zelathi, Zelathi and Garathi, even a few brave souls who formed triads of connection across all three species. "We're not just guarding anymore," Lyra observed one day, or year or century. Time was meaningless. "We're building something new." She was right. The seal had evolved from a simple barrier into something more like a filter. It didn't just keep the devourers out. It transformed their hunger into something else. Energy that could be harnessed, directed, even purified. "They're becoming less," the keeper said with something like awe. "Their assault on the barrier weakens. Them transforms them. Given enough time, they'll cease to be a threat entirely," Marcus finished. "We're not just holding them back. We're healing the universe of them." It was Sarah who noticed it first, her child's perception catching what adult minds might miss. "They're scared," she announced. "The monsters are scared because they're getting smaller." She was right. The devourers were diminishing, their endless hunger turning in on itself as the seal transformed their essence. What had once been cosmic horror was becoming merely cosmic phenomenon, dangerous but manageable. "How long until they're gone completely?" someone asked. "Generations," the keeper replied, "but each passing year makes them weaker and us stronger." Marcus felt Lyra's consciousness nestle closer to his, a warmth in the vast expanse of their shared existence. "We did something extraordinary," she said softly. We survived, he replied. More than that. We thrived. We took the worst the universe could throw at us and turned it into an opportunity for growth. That's what humans do, Marcus said with mental shrug. It's what we all do now, Lyra corrected. Human, Zelathi, Gorathi. We're something new, something better. The seal pulsed with collective agreement, hundreds of guardians adding their affirmation. They were no longer separate species holding a line, but a unified force, diverse yet harmonious. Marcus thought back to that day in the jungle when he'd heard Lyra's screams and made the choice to act. Such a small decision in the moment, but it had changed everything. One human choosing to save one alien had sparked a revolution in interstellar relations, created a solution to an ancient threat, and forged bonds that would last for millennia. Hey! Sarah's bright presence interrupted his musings. Uncle Marcus, tell us the story again. Which story? He asked, though he knew which one she meant. The one about how you saved Aunt Lyra from being roasted and how you became the first guardians. Marcus felt Lyra's amusement as he began the tale once more, embellishing it a bit for the younger guardians who joined them. It had become legend now. The story of the human who stepped out of the dark to save an alien from flames, only to discover that saving one life meant saving all life. As he spoke, he felt the devourers pressing against the barrier again, but weaker than before, more desperate than dangerous. The seal held easily, strengthened by story and song, by memory and hope, by the bonds between species that had once been strangers. And that, Marcus concluded his tale, is how a salvage operator, a xenobiologist, and a military commander became the first of the new guardians. Not through plan or purpose, but through choice. The choice to act, to trust, to sacrifice for strangers who became family. Best story ever, Sarah declared with the certainty only a child could manage, looking through dimensions at the thriving civilizations they protected, at the connections forming between species that had once been enemies, at the future spreading out before them bright with possibility. Marcus had to agree. They had been roasting her alive until a human stepped out of the dark. And in doing so, he'd lit a fire that would warm the universe for generations to come.